Welcome back to Dungeons and Dyslexia. My name's Adrian, and as you can see, I've got another special guest with me. So this is another interview, and I'm joined with Al Spader from the Yellow Hand. Welcome, Al.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Al Spader. I'm a freelance writer for the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. I'm also a creator in my own right. I've created the Sentience role-playing game and the Once Upon role-playing game. And I do work with the Yellow Hand in putting together a lot of their publications as well.
Yeah, so Al, I think I first spoke to you because of Sentience, which is well, it's the reason you're here really, and where we sort of really started talking all the time because was that your second kicks? Did you kickstart Once Upon, or was it
So we have
just
not kickstarted Once Upon yet. Once Upon
right?
has just been a PDF up on drive-through. So this was our first real foray into Kickstarter.
Right, okay, which was obviously I backed. I then created a video. I've got the Kickstart project up here. He says, hopefully. Where is it? So here it is. So I discovered this. I'm big disliker of 2D20. Purely because years ago I had a very, very bad experience with Mutant Chronicles, but not your pitch, as in we hadn't actually spoken, but it just sounded like a really interesting and amazing fun game. So before we get into this and the Kickstarter, are you still taking pledges, or is it because we're
So the
so
Kickstarter is down, it has completed. However, there is we have a pre-order store on BackerKit right now,
right?
and it's going for the next couple of weeks. And essentially, if you haven't had a chance to back the Kickstarter, but you get onto our BackerKit and go through the pre-order store, you should be able to get your stuff shipped at the same time as everyone else who's getting their product.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I will say that I've since played Sentience, and I've now played a couple of other 2D20 systems, and I'm really regretful that I've adored. But I did exactly the same with Savage Worlds. I sort of Savage Worlds was a game that I thought it was like a comedy, not a comedy. I don't mean it like that, but because it was a bit gimmicky with other stuff, I never even touched it. So and Deadlands and stuff's become one of my favorite systems. Right, before we get into Sentience, Once Upon, and your Star Trek writing, which he has written for Star Trek for several years now, do you want to sort of take me through your early days of role playing, sort of what got you into the hobby, first games you either played or ran?
Sure. When I was in college, we were doing a lot of AD&D once every other week or so. A bunch of people from the dorm would get together and we would just throw together games for people to play. So that's really where I first started. Once I got out of college, we had a weekly 3.5 game going for a long time. And we got to the end of that run and decided we really wanted to create our own game. And so the group that I was working with at the time started putting together some loose rules and whatnot, just to see what it would be like. And nothing ever came of it. But eventually, once fifth edition rolled around, they started doing the community content program, where you
Right.
would create adventures to run at conventions and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I got involved with a couple of different groups doing that, had a couple of big selling 5e adventures. And that, I did that for 4 or 5 years. Fast forward to, the lockdown hits and my regular gaming group wanted to try something new, and we kind of spilled over into Star Trek Adventures. And just by happenstance, I happened to be on a panel with the line editor and the project manager for Star Trek, and he loved what I was saying, gave me an opportunity to write, and that kind of is where a lot of my focus has been for the last 4 years. I think I just turned in my 20th project for Star Trek Adventures. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So is this a full time thing for you writing, or are you sort of balancing it with a
I wish. No,
yeah?
I'm a middle school science teacher. That's my real
Right.
job.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm a father of 6-year-old twin boys.
Oh, that's
So
scary.
finding time to write is really challenging.
Yeah.
Um, but I make sure that I find time to write every single day.
Yeah. Why is it not every interview I have with, especially American um, content creators. You're all teachers and lecturers.
Yeah.
It just seems to. Do you run any sort of club at your school? And do you
I
get
don't.
anything?
I could. That my thing is, role playing to me is my escape from my real world
Yeah,
job. And so like I've had kids ask me to run a D&D club and things like that for them, and you know, I think that those are very valuable for young teenagers, preteens, and whatnot. It's just not where I want to be, because when I am doing gaming, that's my escape from my job.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at right now. That doesn't necessarily mean that's how I'll be in 5 years, but that's kind of, when I game, I do it so I don't have to think about lesson planning and, things like that at school.
yeah. No, cool. So yeah, I've got to ask this because we tried to get into Star Trek for years. There was because they couldn't. There was an official Star Trek game back in the 90s, and then Prime Directive came out,
Mhm.
which actually felt more Star Trek than Star Trek, the role playing game. And one of my best mates, we've been gaming for years. He's a massive Trekkie, and we're all Star Wars fans. So we won't play Star Trek games and take to the level that he wants us to, if that makes sense. But this 2D20, because is it second edition now they're into, I
Oh yeah,
think,
yeah.
which I've now the world building for Star Trek always seems really interesting. Um, and so I don't know, because you do quite a lot on your YouTube channel for Star Trek as well, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I do a lot of interviews, and there's a podcast, Continuing Conversation, that I'm a regular on. And in general, I think that the 2D20 system, because it is so different than a lot of D20 systems, I
Yeah,
think it's scary for people that are trying it for the first time. It's a roll under system, which is a very new idea for a lot of people that might be coming over from D&D or Pathfinder or whatever. Um, and as far as like the 2D20 system in general goes, every game that Modifius does that's 2D20 is a slight take variant or take on the rules. Some are more crunchy, some are less crunchy, right? I think you mentioned Mutant Chronicles
yeah,
and like Infinity are considered some of the more crunchy 2D20
mm,
systems. Star Trek's kind of in the middle. Star Trek Adventures kind of in the middle, and then you have some lighter ones like Dishonored. Um, and Dune is kind of a lighter system as well in a lot of ways. Um, but in general, I mean, the Star Trek Adventures line is trying to simulate a television show.
yeah,
Uh, and it does a really nice job with that, using its momentum and its threat system to build towards these climaxes at the end of the second act. And I think that's where people have the most fun when playing the game, is when you realize this feels just like an episode of Next Generation. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Because that's where you built Sentience off from, wasn't it? Because they did the like an open gaming license, if I can remember
Yeah,
back from the
yeah.
Kickstarter.
So when the OGL fiasco happened with 5e,
We
was
all
that
remember it fondly, don't we?
3 years going on 3 years
Yeah,
ago
I was going
now?
to say it seems like only 6 months ago, doesn't it? It
Yeah,
doesn't seem a long time ago.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh, so like I had a lot of friends who were writing D&D stuff and putting it up on DM's Guild, and once that hit, they were all very upset, because I had a couple of friends that was their full-time job.
yeah,
Um, and so what I did was I was trying to come up with I'm like, you all are amazing writers. You're amazing D&D writers, but you're also just amazing writers. You don't have to just write D&D. Branch out, come up with new ideas, come up with new niches. And so for a couple of weeks, I was going up every day on Twitter and posting an idea of a different type of RPG concept. And one of the ones that I pitched was, you're all these terraforming robots that have become alive, have gained sentience before humanity returns.
yeah.
And just that as a concept, a lot of people were drawn to. They said, this sounds really cool. This sounds really cool. And I started developing it, and that's what eventually became Sentience.
Which is this. I'm just going to tease the front cover with
Oh,
people for
you
now.
can tease whatever you want from this
So
book. We are so proud of how it looks.
It does look absolutely, and I think what I love about it, and I think I commented when I made my YouTube video during. So I do videos on crowdfunding. So if I see a project that I like that I'm supporting, I'll then make a video to try and draw more attention to it. I'm never involved in the in the, I didn't even know Al at the time, and I was like, what I love about this is just the cleanliness of the rule book, because you had like a teaser rule book, a sort of a quick start guide, and it was all laid out like this, and it kind of reminded me of how I thought the world was going to be, because
Yep.
obviously, it's in a world where there's no food. There might be litter, but obviously you're going to have robots cleaning up, but the litter's going to be bits of robots falling off. But you're not going to have cigarette ash and all that sort of goes on. And then you commented on my video going, yeah, you absolutely got it, because it's all about robots gaining a soul and humanity, and, balancing up duty compared with life and thinking and all that sort of goes with it. So this is this now the official rule book? Because you sent this to me last week. Do you want your copy now? And I was like,
Yeah.
I'll have a look.
Yeah, it is. So the only thing that we have to tweak in here is, I think we were tweaking a couple of art pieces, and we have to do a couple of safety blurbs in here for the for Great Britain.
Just for us?
And
Is it our fault?
yeah, well, I had never heard of it before, but we've been going back and forth with Chris Birch, who owns Modifius,
Right, yeah.
and he says you really have to do this, and so we're getting that together, and I believe we're going to be hopefully in a place in about 3 weeks where we can begin fulfillment.
Okay, now I'm going to apologise on behalf of the whole of my country for the extra work you've got to do, but I'm quite glad that I've now got the original copy, so I can do a direct comparison
Yeah.
on what we as a country, not me, is forcing other companies to do, because that's I've never heard of that before.
Yeah,
So it'd be
apparently they do
really
it with
interesting.
What's it called? I'm trying to see if it's on the back here. No, Modifius does it with all of their books, apparently.
Right, okay.
To basically just say, that this is safe, and yeah, it was something that we hadn't heard of before. But Modifius is chatting us through it. So
Yeah.
so we should be in a good place.
Once I've got it, if you allow me to, I'm going to do... I've already got a video idea now of running both PDFs alongside each other and just doing a short thing. Though I might have the wrath of Chris Birch, which probably isn't good because he lives quite near me. I live on a very small island.
It's called GPSR regulations.
Okay, never heard of it. But then it's not like I'm in the industry or
Right.
in writing or anything like that. So, and it's probably been in all the books that I've read and not
Yes.
even noticed. It's just always been there.
Probably just been like a couple of brief lines.
Yeah.
Somewhere, but that once that's done, we upload it, we get our copies, and then we hit print, which is awesome.
Yeah. No, fantastic. So, is this some sort of assassin droid here?
So let's see. So you are looking at the range, and so the range is it's a region. So basically, this section is all about different places in the city of Noondawn, and so I'm guessing that was the Damsel of Lemons, which is a character.
Yeah.
If you look at these PCs that are here, that's oh yeah. An unknown legend created by a media savvy bot, or are they real? So that's kind of fun.
So I was going to say lady, but she looks like a lady robot.
Well, so I think that's one of the whole things about the game is like you can have your robot present however you want. You know what I mean? And some robots have redesigned their chassis since they awakened, right?
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible to have a lady robot and and whatnot. One of the things that we're trying to get out there is the fact that you don't have to look human, and that's really hard sometimes for people when playing a game. And so that's why a lot of our new roles are not humanoid. They are little boxy Wally looking characters, just for something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you've got a lot of characters in the back of the book, so there's quite a lot of pre-generations, which is really good because that does give, like you say, I my imagination is good for some things, but tell me to create a robot, I'm going to come up with probably a bipedal, maybe a quadruped robot. But when Al nicely ran a demo game for, there was I think about 6 of us a few weeks ago, which will go out onto my channel once the Kickstarter is, once the pledges started coming out, so that is it might come out a week earlier than that now, so it's all recorded, edited, ready to go. It's just that someone else bought it out first, and I wanted to sort of leave it to go. And that was a really good session. And what Al did really well was not only explain the world in a really quick, I think it's about 2 hours, but the rules, I came away from there going, the 2D20 system's really good because you get to roll D20s and then save up successes to this pooled resource that all the other players can then use. So it actually makes a really collaborative experience, as opposed to a lot of games where if someone's rolling, you're all like tense whether they're going to pass or not, but you can't influence other than pray, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Where with this, you're like, do you mind if I spend? No, we want you to succeed. And there's this bit where you do a skill roll where you've got a 0, so that you're automatically going to succeed, but you still roll to generate more successes to go into the pool. So it does give a reason to sort of go. But before we get into more of the rule book, do you want to sort of explain more on the world, on, because you sort of touched upon your idea that was on Twitter, but the sort of where we are?
So I knew that we wanted to make this a relatively what I call near sci-fi, which means, within the relative short future of technology. And so I brought in Aaron Pollier. He does a lot of the science work for Star Trek Adventures. He is an astrophysicist. He's also written for BattleTech. And so he was my go-to guy. I was like, all right, so how can we, based off of what we can currently do in the world, create this ship that goes and settles on another planet? And what we realized right away was that truly habitable planets that we found are very, very far away. So we knew that we wanted to find a star cluster that was closer. And there's your picture of the Gliese system right there. This is what Aaron kind of put together of this triple star system. And what we determined was it wasn't the robots sent by themselves. The robots and humans left together. The humans were in cryostasis and the robots were on the ship. Well, partway to their destination, the ship suffers some type of traumatic event that basically splits it into many pieces. And the robots ended up going towards Gliese 667c, which is this star that's way far out, away from the cluster, and the humans are kind of jettisoned toward that double pair of stars that are closer to the inner system. So the robots end up landing on a planet they didn't intend to land on, but they realize that it's still something that could be, turned into a world that humans could inhabit. So they decide to just go through with their programming anyway. And, after a few years of terraforming, 100 years or so, robots, a bunch of the robots just gain self-awareness, and nobody knows why. The robots haven't been able to recreate it, but there are a huge portion, I think we said like 60% of the robots all gain sentience at the same time. Now, this is really a challenging bit in the robot life cycle here, because robots awaken and many robots are afraid. They don't know what to do. They lash out. And we have the first 2 years after what we call the awakening, we have basically the reaction. And it's basically a war where emotionally uncontrolled robots start lashing out and destroying everything around them. And that took time before a group of robots were able to come together and kind of settle everything down. And now robot society is starting to form, and they're kind of mimicking humans in some way. So in some cases, in the bad ways, right? You got an opportunity in the adventure that you played to see kind of like a gangster,
Yes.
um, you know, and so like there are
uh,
some robots that are doing things positively, some doing things negatively, and it's all about how can we bring this world together.
I think the weird but great thing about the role playing thing is that I played a lot of it thinking I was actually still human as opposed to a robot. It's only when I went to do physical stuff and then you remember you haven't got opposable thumbs or whatever it may be, and you're like, oh, because at one stage, without spoiling things, I was driving a car, which is, and we went bowling. There's lots of things that you can do in this world, and I've just stopped here because I love this image in the top left hand corner here, which
Yep.
is just so reference of the ape, the famous ape image of Homo sapien all the way through. Um, well, no, to Homo sapien, obviously we didn't start where we are, but I'm assuming that's exactly what this is referencing because that's how it looks to me. Sort of,
Right.
here's your DVD player type thing that's then sort of gone up to. So actually, I'd missed that. So about 40% of the robots are still carrying on their duty.
Yep.
Duty's the wrong word, if that makes sense.
What they were
um,
programmed to do.
yes, yeah, because that's actually in the. We'll get into the rules in a second, but yeah, carry on. Just sort of go. Oh, we met one of these. I didn't. I was racing. The rest of the party met one. I was having fun.
Yes. Yep, that's one of the big bad guys that you guys encountered, which was pretty cool. So this section that you're flipping through now is written by Alison Seib. She kind of helped me envision the world a little bit, and she went a little bit into what are robots like on Earth now, and how might that look if they are elsewhere on their own. So she kind of drills down into all these different aspects of our life and how robots have been a part of them or have been influenced by them. Um, and so, yeah, and so like some robots are trying to recreate the awakening. Other robots are trying to prepare for humanity to return still, right? Because like I'm aware now, but I also know that the humans are coming. So how can I get this world set up so that the humans can survive when they get here, but at the same time respect me as an individual and not as, a robot slave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I think like there can be a lot of really cool ethical discussions. And I would say about half of the adventures that are out right now through the Kickstarter have some very big ethical and moral quandaries that you come to during the final scene, which is kind of cool.
Because how many adventures are included in the Kickstarter? So if someone jumps in late, do they? Because it was 2 books on the Kickstarter, wasn't it? If I
So,
remember.
so technically three. So the core rule book has an adventure that is pretty long, and it's
Yeah.
all about forming a workers' union for robots that are not sentient.
Hmm.
Um, they still deserve our respect and aren't slaves and blah blah blah. So that's kind of the first adventure. In the toolkit, we have a second adventure written by Bill Barbado. It's called Some Dance to Remember, Some Dance to Forget. That was a Kickstarter exclusive. We do have it on the BackerKit pre-order store, but once it comes down from there, the toolkit will not be available in that format ever again. Um, and then we have the Chronicles of the Awakening book, which I have. I got my print proof right here, and this has, I believe, 9 adventures in it.
Yeah.
So I think you start off with 11 adventures total that are fully written, three acts. And then there are 17 what we call adventure briefs, which are basically one-page adventures.
Okay. Yeah. Because I can't remember what I even did now. I think yeah, because it was it, wasn't it? That you got all 3 books here that
Yep.
doesn't seem to
So
go
that
through.
so that GM screen where you see right there
Yeah.
also has a toolkit book with it, because of the basically what happened was we got so many stretch goals that our plan was to collect all the stretch goals in a booklet for everyone that was a part of this. So
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. I've got to ask, how do you get these robots looking so shiny?
so
It's
this is
it's just so pure and clean, if you know what I mean.
uh, this is Jay Sedelius in his in his zone. So Jay is the owner of the Yellow Hand, and he is also our graphic designer. He's our layout tech, and he basically does most of the art direction now. So a lot of these come from when 3D designers first start learning 3D design. A lot of the things they start with are robots
Right.
because it's basically human form. So you can get a lot of robotic imagery for relatively cheap from people that are learning how to do 3D modeling. And so he had this vision where he wanted this clean whites and blues and some silver grays as well. And so when I first released this book 3 years ago, I was just finding whatever images I could. And when I met Jay, he's like, "There's no cohesion here. Each page looks like it's a different role playing game." And I was like, "All right, well, I'm not an artist. I can write, I can design good games, but I don't understand the concept of creating cohesion among the images." And he put
Yeah.
together a couple of pages, and I was like, "I get it now." So yeah, so he does an awesome job with all the layout work.
Yeah, because I don't know whether people can pick this up on it, but the light reflection on the side of this guy's person's face,
Yeah.
robot's face, is absolutely amazing. I've got to ask, just as you were asking earlier, going through the world. So, is there in the rule book a faction of robots that is going to do some sort of rebellion that's planning that when the humans come here, they go, do you know what? No, we're in charge, you're under us, or you can get off our planet.
Yeah,
C-
so that is definitely so one of yes, those factions exist, and we talk about them in here. We don't give
Yeah.
them names directly, but my plan is a few books down the road. I want to actually tell the story of humanity returning, and that's
Oh,
when I'm
that's
going to
good.
introduce one of these big factions.
Yeah.
There is a faction in one of the adventures. The adventure's called the Stray Code, and their faction is called the Open Arms. And the Open Arms are they're essentially like a cult almost that are super willing to accept humanity. Like they see humanity as their creators. They want them to come here. But the problem is they think that all the other robots on in New Dawn are going to mess it up.
Right.
So they're kind of like trying to exert their own influence over all of these other robots, saying, don't mess this up. These are our creators. So there's that type of faction as well, which is cool.
We talk about this quite a lot with with my friends. We talk about everyone does it. You have to, if you ran the world competition, things of the things that you would do. If you were in charge, what would you do? And more often than not, nobody that wants to be in charge isn't evil. It's just that a lot of other people completely disagree with
Yep.
what because you're doing it for the benefit of you because of your world image.
Mhm.
But you've got to then relate that to being a robot that's only suddenly gained sentience, which is such a good flip on the head. And I was like, this is such an exciting and interesting world.
And then you have to have the discussion of, well, is it their right to have those beliefs and act in that way? And how can it benefit all of us moving forward? Like, there's a lot of philosophical discussions in this game, um, both on a macro and then on an internal scale as well, right? Because you're trying to learn more about who you are and how your emotions impact your programming. And I don't think we've had a chance to say yet, but in this game, one set of your stats are six emotions,
Yes.
right? And so I guess I want to flip this back at you, Adrian, is the first time that you went out there to roll that bowling ball, and I said, "How do you feel as you go to roll this bowling ball?" You kind of paused for a moment to think about that, right? So
Yes.
how did you feel about having uh emotions as a stat?
It was very strange because you used to stats being sorry, I'm just going to stop sharing a second because I was just trying to find the bit on the character sheet. You're used to stats representing something not quite tangible, but
Mhm.
something that we can really relate to because, we've all been doing this for years. We all know what strength means, what dexterity means. Not all, but most people in this hobby will understand that, we have to break down a human to, saying 6 different components: strength,
Sure.
wisdom, whatever it may be, and every game has the same pretty much stats.
Right. Is it called wisdom or is it called instincts? Right.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the same
yeah.
thing.
It's the same thing, but you're suddenly then doing this from a robot point of view, and it's based on and he was like, "Are you enjoying what you're doing?" And I'm like, "No, it's a little bit frustrating." So you're angry then, are you? And I'm like, not necessarily angry, but but the game also does this little bit where, because the players are running most of their stats off their emotion, well, the dice rolls off their emotions, you do this wonderful counterbalancing bit where if you use all of your emotions in a game session, I think it was, you get bonus experience. So if
Yes.
you're willing to sort of use some of your lower stats to make a roll, you're going to be rewarded by it, by the growth in your character developing faster than the other players around the table, unless they do exactly the same, which is really good because it's going to force them to stop just picking, go, oh, I'm still angry. Oh, I'm still angry, but you're at a wedding. You're trying to
Right.
order
Right.
a drink, but I'm
Yep.
angry, because players will do whatever they can to take, well, not all, but the best advantage they can to the best chance to succeed on a dice roll.
One of the things that I wanted to avoid was I've run the Dune role playing game several times at
Yeah,
my LGS, and they use drives, and it's a similar thing. What's driving you to do this action? Well, every time I play the game, the people choose the same drive for every single roll, and
mm,
that to me is a failure. Like I
yeah,
feel like that is not actually role playing. That's like, that's just trying to min max your character.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
this is what I was looking for. I
oh
stopped
yeah.
on NPCs and I realized, no, I've got to keep going. So I think this probably explains it easier if we can just go through a character here. So we've got the characters are broken down into emotions and protocols, which is technically ability, stats and attributes, isn't it? And then
Yeah,
skills. That's
basically.
all it is. So, and we're adding the two and then rolling the d20 to try and get the same or less. But this is what I mean. So with this character, technically, they could go, well, yeah, your wife's, you're trying to convince your wife, your robotic wife, to stay. How do you feel? And you go, well, I'm in love, because you want more chances of succeeding because you've got to roll 11 or less. I'm picking some really dooming options, aren't I? Um, where, and you've also got this bit where you can give up, was it values
Yeah, so
to
if you look
to
right underneath the stats there, you have some. The one thing that I love about a bunch of the 2D20 system is how words carry mechanics with them. And so in Sentience, you'll notice that these characters have values, right? Well, the values represent your humanity. And if you ever get into a situation where you need your robot self to take over, you need your AI to take over, basically you can sacrifice these values, cross them off your sheet, and you get super bonuses like being able to automatically roll a one on one of your dice, being able to take a second major action, being able to avoid damage to one of your appendages, things like that. And so there's actually mechanics in the game where you can get your values back um, through some extended tasks. But usually your value when you get it back has been changed or modified in some way. So if you ever lose all three of your values, you revert to being an AI. That's how you die in this game. You are no longer sentient if you lose all your values.
because you can also combat in different ways as well, can't you? Because I missed out the combat because I was having a jolly in a car, but when the other part of the group, because we did that wonderful thing. It's like, here we go, you know, we've got a 2.5 hour adventure, so we split the party just to keep it interesting for Al. You know, that horrible thing anyone can ever do for a games master. So half the party then went off and had a sort of a combat interaction, and one of them was doing combat via programming, not traditional fighting.
Yep.
You know,
So if you look at the third bullet under, or the last bullet under combat, each of these characters that you have up on screen have what's called a cyber attack. And this is kind of, it's something that we're going to build upon in a future product. But this is like our, you know, if you're in Shadowrun and you're you know, on the net attacking each other, this is kind of what those attacks are. And so basically every robot is attached to each other via what's called the hub. And the hub is basically this giant computer mainframe in the center of the city, while every single robot is remotely linked to it. So sometimes robots can use that link to you know, to attack digitally instead of with weapons.
Yeah, there was it Zippity Z? Was that the one that was doing the bowling next? I can't remember.
Yes, Zippity Zed was the one that was trying to figure out how to bowl.
Yeah, so I was all right. So I played. I was Rasputin, wasn't I? So I lied earlier. I did have semi-opposable thumbs because obviously I could turn the wheel, etc. So that this was me, but I didn't. Yep. I had a hammer. I didn't really have any gun. Oh, well, I had a nail gun. But I didn't get into combat because I got an opportunity to drive. And I remember looking at my skills, and I think I got some, because you also get these talents, which are feats. I think most people would describe them as in a game, which are ongoing, quite powerful things that your players do. And I got a bonus to operating, which was which we then used for driving. But yeah, so in the bowling alley, there was Zippy Z had to bowl. And obviously, as you can see, it's a quadrupedic robot with no arms.
That's very squat to the ground.
Yeah. So we were debating whether they had to play off, you know, like with the kids, where you put the little alley to roll down for there, and then we just sit there and watch, for him to lift it on. But he just, I think, ran backwards and
kicked it,
ran in and kicked it. Yeah.
So one of the things that I have had all of my writers do, Adrian, is I have at the start of every adventure is some type of social scene.
Yeah.
Because I believe that learning about who your character is and how their emotions work and whatnot, having a social scene that sometimes I think, like, as people we take for granted, is a really important thing to role play through when you're trying to figure out how your robot feels. So, for example, we've got an adventure where they go hiking. We've got another adventure where they go stargazing. Another adventure where they're trying to set up a camping tents and fires and whatnot. Like, so it's just, I try to take these things that we kind of take for granted as people, that, you know, yeah, we go for a walk around the block with our dog and our loved one, right? But that really shows a lot about who we are and what our emotions are. You know what I mean? So I try to embed that into every single adventure that we run.
So I know you've got a little bit of an adjustment now on time. Have we? I'm not going to pin you down for a time, but did you kind of, for general release, we've got a.
So I'm guessing, my hope is that everyone should have their books, their products, by the last week of May or the first week of June. That's what we're shooting for. I don't know for sure. It all depends on how quickly our printer can get us in the line. But what's great is our printer is also going to be our distributor. So it's not like really it has to go to a warehouse. So we cut out part of that transition so we can go right from the print shop to your doorstep.
Yeah. So you having it all printed over in America, or?
So there's we have an America print shop, we have a Europe print shop, and I believe that we have one in Japan as well. No, it might be Australia. But yeah, we have three separate print shops that are all doing same company, but they're printing right there, so we can avoid the tariffs issues and whatever else is going on,
Yeah, that's
which is
becoming
kind of
quite a
great.
painful word, isn't it? At this
Yeah,
moment in
we
time.
we've got one person that emailed us from Canada that was like, "Is there any way that I could have mine delivered from the British shop as opposed to the American shop and things like that?" So, we're gonna have to sort through all that eventually too. But luckily, um, we didn't do a box set, we didn't do dice, so we didn't do anything that we have to wait for in customs or anything like that. So
Yeah.
we got pretty lucky there.
Yeah, and also you get because you'll be coded as books. This is something I've learned when I'm buying starter sets from other countries. Because starter sets contain dice, they fall outside the remit of books for
Yep.
VAT and delivery duties. And then suddenly you get I bought this,
Yep.
which has got some dice and some figures in it. $50 I bought it for. Cost me £57, including duty, to get it delivered to my house.
Because it's considered a game, not a book.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Hence the reason why I'm predominantly on PDFs at this moment in time, because it's
Well,
you can't take the chances sometimes.
what we learned from Modifius is, so this is their Star Trek Adventures second edition GM screen,
Yeah,
and they said if you sell just a GM screen, it is considered a game. However, if you sell a GM screen with an adventure booklet, now you can ship that as a book.
that's why everyone does it as with an adventure then. Right.
Yes.
So, oh no, clever,
Yeah, we didn't
clever.
know that until Chris Birch talked us through that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
makes perfect sense.
yeah.
So, which is cool. So, what I want to do now, so that sentience, we're not done because I'm sure we'll touch upon it a little bit as we go forward. But your other game, so this was the first thing that Jay actually sent to me. He was he was like, when we looked at this, you looked at my reviews, and Jay went, "Look on our website. Is there anything that you want?" And he sent me a couple of books. And then I was like, yeah, these are good. He's like, well, what do you think of them? I was backwards and forwards. So I went, do you want anything else? And I'm like, I'm not going to say no. And then so Jay started sending me books that weren't his, which is, and we're talking about Jay Sedelius, who
Yeah.
is the artist that's done all the wonderful shiny robot stuff. So I just want to share this one. Now, this one is one that I haven't done a video on yet because I want you to pitch this back to me. I love the book. It's absolutely stunning. But I can't quite get my head round the elevator pitch, if that makes sense, to
Yes.
explain it to people sufficiently. And I really struggle, which is why I was delighted to get, not only to talk about Sentience, but this is probably one of the best looking books that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Um,
So and a lot of people get confused where they hear that I'm writing all this cool sci-fi stuff, and then all of a sudden I drop a storybook fantasy book, um, which is pretty fantastic. And so this actually started off as me trying to create my own RPG system. And then it spilled into my concept of I want to do storybook role playing that is lighthearted and fun because it feels like every storybook or fairy tale game that comes out these days is just very dark fantasy,
yeah,
which I'm fine with. I like playing dark fantasy every now and then as well. Um, but there's very little out there that is bright and upbeat and kind of silly fantasy, and that's kind of where Once Upon came from. Was I wanted to create a lighthearted, positive, and fun storytelling experience where the mechanics kind of fall to the back a little bit, and the storytelling comes more to the front. Like I really love doing like the storytelling around the fire pit. Like you
yeah,
start the story and then you pass it off to the next person and whatnot. Um, so what I decided was I had really enjoyed a comic book series called Fables uh, for a very long time. And in that, they kind of took the fairy tale characters and they were in the real world with us. But one of the things that was always cool about it was the more people believed in you, the stronger and more rooted you became. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do something like that as well. So in Once Upon, you role play as an imaginary storybook character that people are reading about in their stories. And you are going around doing adventures and doing cool things. And the more adventures you do and the more cool things you do, the more that people are reading your story believe in you. And you actually get more and more powerful based off of the cool stuff that you do. All the while, there's this kind of this force known as the gloom. And this is kind of like the power of forgetfulness. And the gloom is always trying to cause people to forget about you. So in the story, your characters are trying to like thwart evil and go on fun adventures to try to make sure that the gloom doesn't consume your memory, essentially.
Okay, because it's perfect timing because when I went through the world, so I've just scroll back. So you've created this world here, Imaginaria, I think
Yep.
that's pronounced, which has all got they've all got their own different worlds and they've all got their own characters of note. Some of these are
Made up
ripped
by
off,
us.
made up by you. Some of them are blatantly taken. So like we've got Avalon here, which is obviously King Arthur, Arthurian legends and stuff. So I'm guessing from public domain there was because
Oh yeah.
there's some that are quite feel like real characters, but you've then changed the name slightly. And then you've got this wonderful one here, which is a world of dogs. And if I had to live anywhere, I'm living here. I'd
Yeah.
love to live in a world where dogs can just interact and we can talk to them. I'm not sure I'd
Yeah,
want to be in charge, have a dog in charge of the world though,
we're
because I
talking
don't.
about a story where Inspector Jarvis Woofrick, the little private investigator dog down here, the Bloodhound,
Yeah,
is kind of be one of the main NPCs that is helping the characters get through a story. So, yeah, we this entire Mongrelia was done by Jay. He came up with all of it, and he did a really nice job with it.
yeah. I don't know why. I've got a boxer. So I look at this, and I don't know if you've ever caught the image. There's a picture of Ron Perlman smoking a cigar,
Yes.
and then the boxer next to it. And it's like, and our dog was in the garden, and he picked up this stick, and it was just stuck out the side. I was like, quick, trying to get a photo of him. And I go, look, it's Ron Perlman. And all the kids are
Yep.
going, I don't know what you're on about, Dad. But my wife laughed, and that's the most important thing. But I'd say it's the one that say so would you and I excuse my ignorance, is this more aimed at family people playing together, like getting kids involved, things like that, than a group of sort of middle-aged men?
Yeah, I considered this an all ages game.
Yeah.
Now that being said, you can still tell really intense stories from an adult point of view as well. Like Tumblewood is a little bit more adultish. I think that there's a couple of different regions that I think the characters are a little bit more creepy, a little bit more adultish. But we also brought in like Wonderland's here, Oz is here, characters that kids are familiar with, um, and all of this art here that you're seeing are like these are all real art pieces that are in the public domain um, for fairy tale type stuff. Um, so we were excited to find all of this stuff, and the artist name is Arthur Rackham, and he did a ton of stuff at the turn of the century. So this is kind of like a love story for him as well, to share his work. And in some cases, we saw the images and kind of wrote the stories around the images, which is kind of fun as well. But there you go, one-page character creation. You don't see that very often.
No, no, no. This is quite a famous image.
Yep.
uh it's because I said that when I flicked through it, I was like, this is such a beautiful book. uh
Yeah,
I,
I think we basically found what we could for images, and when there were like other things that we needed, Jay kind of like put them together and then put some filters on them to make them kind of match. Um, but like this picture of the
oh,
Piper,
sorry, I'll go
um,
back.
like one of the things that you can do is to kind of like I got kind of with the Disney theme is that you can sing a song, and so like that image was perfect for the melody section. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I thought Jay did a good job finding the appropriate art for the appropriate places, and yeah, it is. And let me tell you, this book looks really really nice on paper. Um, it's just gorgeous.
So, any plans to bring it to paper?
So right now you can get it print on demand from Drive Through RPG. Uh, there are discussions on when and how we could bring it to Kickstarter, um, because I think that it has that type of appeal. There's if you look right there on the right, that's the Believer's Guide to the North Pole. That's the first expansion. And it's kind of all it's basically I created a fantasy world called the North Pole. It took like all the Christmas stories together and kind of created a source book on it, which was a lot of fun.
So obviously, so at least people can get it. So what myths have you thrown in here? Have you got like a bad Santa, or is it again and from a nicer point of view, keeping
So
the
well,
sort
we
of
have
more?
so Santa is at the center of Elf Village, and then the further you get away from Village, you get to like the Yeti, you get to like there are some naughty dwarf creatures that come up out of the ground that try to thwart Christmas. Yeah, so there is evil here in the North Pole, but it is it is primarily a happy go lucky place, and when that evil shows up it's pretty scary. I also put in like the Christmas ghosts that haunt the north regions of the world are very scary, and so on. So
Yeah, XP based or level based?
it's I use what's called character points, so same thing as in
Okay.
Sentience.
Yeah.
Different things that you do in the game, you earn character points, and then you can spend character points to raise your stats, learn new things, etc.
So
So
where
you
do you
literally
see?
level every session.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got sentience. You know where that's building. So different factions. The long term plans to bring humanity here, so we can all murder them as robots, or allow them to come back in and take over and enslave us all. What whereabouts where do you see the sort of future for Once Upon?
So once upon we have a couple of different books planned. One is a campaign and about this character who has kind of gone all over the realm of Imaginara and has like left these clues that you need to follow to some big surprise at the end. And then I have a couple of different ideas. One is going to be for like a codex of the Outer Realms. So the Outer Realms are like these magical locations outside of Imaginara that you can only gain access to by special means. So one of them is the Land of Luck. And to get to the Land of Luck, you have to follow a rainbow to get there, and different things like that. So we'll probably release some type of book around that. And then the one that I'm really excited for is a traveler's guide to incredible journeys. And so it's basically going to be like random things that happen as you're traveling from place to place. Um, and so I got some ideas for how we're going to do that as well. There's some talks about maybe doing a Halloween themed book this year. Um, but we'll see if I think Sentience, because the successful Kickstarter is going to get an expansion before Once Upon does, I believe. So we're still in the early design boards on all of that.
Yeah, you
Interestingly, the way the game works is it's D12. It's a D12 pools, right?
best
Uh,
best best dice in the world, D12s.
so basically, your four core stats tell you how many dice you roll,
Yeah.
and then if you have a prop that comes into play as well, you can add more dice to your pool. And then your skill, your level and your skill reduces what's called the threshold. So that's the number you need on the D12 for success. So if you are level 2 at communicate, tens on your D12s will count as successes. And there are ways like if you create any type of advantage for yourself, how that will lower the threshold as well. And so I'll tell you, through playtesting the game, it's it's absolutely amazing how many times a 10 plus is rolled across a pool of dice.
Yeah, yeah. But also, not enough games run D12s. They go, for some reason, everyone goes to a 10, then jumps to, the 20. And especially getting to roll a pool of D12s
Yeah.
it's why I have this argument. Well, not argument's the wrong thing to say. When people talk about the One Ring,
Yeah.
because the One Ring's technically a D10 system with two extra things. It's a
Right.
D12. It's a
Yeah.
D12. Which is what I like about it. Because people they just say D20. Everyone's used to rolling a D20. Everyone's used to
Yeah.
rolling a D10.
Coyote and Crow does a D12 pool, but they
Such a
say,
wonderful game.
but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's 8 plus is always a success in that game.
I think so. Yeah.
Um,
So you could just use a coin.
right.
Pretty
That's what I'm
much.
saying.
That's how I feel about it.
So whereas in my threshold system that we're using in Once Upon and in another game that I'm going to tell you about in just a second, is I like the idea of being able to modify what that target number is
Yeah.
based off of what you're narratively doing, right? If you're creating advantages for yourself, of course it's going to be easier to hit, so you're going to lower that. And if the villain has created some disadvantage for you, it's going to be harder for you, and so on and so forth. So one of the things we're doing with the threshold system right now is I'm working on a game with Aaron Paulier called Redacted, which is essentially a 1950s uh, B movie role playing game, uh, where it's based around sci-fi, and essentially the Roswell landing was real. Everyone has access to saucer technology, and yeah, it's going to be a very cool game. We're done the first 4 chapters right now, so we got 4 more left to do. But I'm excited to see how that system plays out in when you're telling like a B movie type
Yeah.
vibe as well.
This is me scribbling out my question on what have you planned next, bearing in mind all the spoilers and hints that keep coming on your Discord. Because obviously I'm part of the Yellow Hand Discord, and I think it's a secret group, that bit on the spoilers group, or is it just part of anyone can be?
Anyone who is
Yeah,
paying attention can go in
yeah.
there and see what spoilers we're putting up.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, ooh, because I'm like, this is X-Files vibe, and everyone's like, it's a little bit before that, but no, it still feels, because anything that's sci-fi with a little bit of mystery, X-Files, because it covered so many good and appalling things.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and that's
So
kind of where I'm thinking too, as I'm putting together the rules. I'm trying to I'm trying to think like an X-Files type game in the 50s. And so also adapting that threshold system into something that is a bit more tactical and a bit more rules heavy than what Once Upon is, where it's a
yeah,
lot more rules light. So in Once Upon, the game master, the storyteller, never rolls a die. It's all just the players. That's not the same in Redacted. Once we get through with that, the opposed rolls are going to be a thing. So I have to figure out how to make that work within the system and whatnot.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's good. And is the plan to make it feel a little bit episodic
Uh,
for?
yeah, I think so. I think we want it to feel episodic for sure. There's going to be a basically a tactical miniatures game that comes out alongside it, that is going to deal with the war in space that's happening during all of this. Whereas the redacted role playing game is going to be basically what's happening on Earth with the agents on the ground, essentially. So I like the idea of that. It allows us to produce supplement books that can be used for both games. So I think it's going to be a neat experience if you want to do it all.
Yeah, yeah. I find it absolutely crazy that, because I don't design anything. That I can plan a massive campaign out, which technically is a very similar thing, isn't it? You have the beginning and the end, but it's like you sort of do a Kickstarter, and I'm like, yeah, that's a really good Kickstarter. Like Sentience, that looks good. We'll have a couple of stories, and everything that you've got on the other hand on your drive-through RPG stuff is very similar to this. It's like, looking at Jay's Mystics and Menace and Mystics. It's
Yeah.
like, well, here's a game, and then you've got about 4 different expansions, and there's all of the world stuff. Like Once Upon, there's more stuff. Sentience, you've gone, here's another all these other things that are coming out. So when you're writing, do you? This might be hard to answer because it might vary, but do you sort of build the world as it goes? So does the whole world come in, or only as you're writing, do you then start adding more and more as more things happen? If that makes sense, it's probably a really stupid question.
So with Sentience, I originally didn't write any of the world stuff.
Right.
Because I didn't want to dictate. I wanted it to be more like a set of tools and a concept as opposed to an actual world, because I want you as the GM to be able to make the world whatever you want. I got feedback with people saying, well, I would like to have some locations that I can use, and so on and so forth. And so that's what this this Kickstarter allowed us to do. It allowed us to go in and start adding different locations and little story seeds all along the way, so that games masters can basically have the stuff there to start with and run with it. With Imaginara, I kind of had the concept of the world initially, and then it was more like, well, do we add Oz and Neverland and Brobdingnag and all of that stuff right now? Do we save that for an expansion? And we determined that we wanted to do that now because it created familiarity to people who buy the game, right? So it's not just all these new little cities that you've never heard of before that you got to kind of like imagine, but now I can tell a story of Captain Hook meeting up with Jack Pumpkin from Oz. So Sentience built a lot along the way, whereas Once Upon Imaginara, we kind of had the world already decided. And because Aaron Pollier is kind of the driving creator of the Redacted game that I'm writing the rules for right now, his world is basically our world, just tweaked a little bit, right? It's so it has all the same countries and whatnot, but there are different agreements between countries about who gets to use saucers and who doesn't, and like things like that. So yeah, I guess it depends on the concept. Like I said, with Sentience, I didn't want to tell you what to do. But based off the feedback, a lot of GMs were like, well, no, you don't have to tell us what to do, but just give us like some ideas. And so that's what I did for this Kickstarter release.
Yeah. I know that bit in Redacted sounds very much. I think it was one of my favorite parts of, and I've watched the whole series about 3 times. So SG1.
Yep.
And what I really loved about it was when the series took that second gate. The Russians have got one, and there's other stuff going on, and it stopped. Hold on. So the rest of the world's got that. So that's going to be in Redacted. Not that thing, but I like that in Redacted. That like the whole government, hold on, we want access to this as well. So that's going to be quite good to play out.
Did you play any of the Stargate role playing game, the one that came out recently?
I played the original D20 one.
Yep.
I think it was based on 3.5.
It was. Yep. Spycraft. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I played that in, and I'm gonna have to be careful what I said, because I had some of my worst experiences as a game master. Hopefully, you won't watch this, but it was a player, and I don't play with him anymore because I had to remove him. But would give his character sheet out, and it'd come back to me, and all the stats had changed and gone up.
Oh man!
So I was having to. It was one of those that I had to. So if you're watching, I'm sorry.
So the new one that came out that was based around the 5e rules.
Yeah.
It was very short-lived. Something happened to the company, it imploded and whatnot. I actually got to write it.
I saw it because I was going to buy it.
Yeah.
But sorry, carry on.
So they did 2 seasons worth of basically their living campaign. Yeah. So the first season of the living campaign came out, and we were working on the second season when whatever happened with the company happened, and they lost their rights, and it was at the same time as Amazon was buying the rights, and I know that messed with licensing. But basically I got paid for writing an adventure for that game that's never going to be released.
That's sad, but equally nice to get paid.
Yes. I because there are other people that have not gotten paid for some of their work because of whatever happened to the company. But I would love to get the license for Stargate and to do it as a 2D20 game, and have it kind of follow like the Octun Cthulhu path a little bit, use that rule system a bit. But But yeah, I love Stargate.
So does that mean that Amazon are buying? They've bought the rights to Stargate, and we're going to get a new TV series?
we're hoping
Is
so.
that
That's what a lot of the community members seem to think is going to happen. But
we say
who
hope?
knows?
Do we hope? Amazon I haven't got the greatest of track record of making the best things with IPs. They're very hit and miss. I suppose it's like Netflix, isn't it? Some things they adapt really well,
Right.
but we're saying that it's like a Netflix adaptation of the Immortal Gods one. What's it bloody called?
Oh, from Neil
With the
Gaiman.
age. Yeah. I
Uh,
hated it. My wife loved it, but I
yeah,
read it a lot in the 90s. And I just didn't like it. My wife thought it was amazing,
yeah.
and it was really really well received. So I think it just depends, doesn't it?
It really does.
On
And I think, let's face it, like when you have a community that is so passionate about their content, even if something comes out and it's bad and they can tear it apart, like they're still happy about it. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah
Like
yeah it's nice to see it, and I'm not one of those gatekeepers. I like seeing it. Other than Nirvana and Metallica t-shirts, I have a hard time with people of a certain age running around with t-shirts and not knowing names of songs. I'm that horrible person that I will ask people, go, what's your favorite song? And they go, shut up, you weird old man. No, I'm not that bad. But okay, so favorite Stargate series, Atlantis or original SG-1 from about season 7?
Yeah, I was gonna say season 6 to 10 of SG-1, I think is just next level. Like I love the Ori. I know a lot of people like complain about them, but I thought they were such a cool, and I wish we could have gotten
Yeah.
2 more seasons with them. But I would say season 6 to season 10 of SG-1 is just next level. And that was when it was got on Sci-Fi Channel.
Well, that's
Um,
because that's what happens when you bring Claudia Black in.
yep, that too, that too. Yep.
She does help a TV series do well.
And
Um,
like there's some action sequences like the battle over the South Pole, and like
yes.
there's just so much cool stuff there. And then the whole lead in to Atlantis was really cool as well. And Atlantis has its big moments as well. It's unfortunate that it feels like it gets cut short during that last season.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
wish Universe had been given a third season, um, because I was really starting to enjoy that at the end. But
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
I'd forgotten about Universe because that was the one based on the spaceship, wasn't it?
yeah, the
With
Destiny.
Robert
Yep,
Carlyle was in it.
yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep. Yeah,
Yeah. See,
it's
I liked Atlantis. I thought
it's
Atlantis was
very
good.
good. The Stargate universe. If you go back and rewatch it, it's a slow burn, but once you
Mm,
get towards the second season, it's like whew, some
yeah.
pretty good storytelling.
Yeah. And
So
when they did a few of the crossovers, which was weird. And it was only when you rewatch it that you find out that Weir was in Stargate SG-1, and then when
yes,
she went to Atlantis, it was a completely different actress. And I was like,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I hadn't twigged it was meant to be the same person. And then I was like, hold on, like then you have to go back and rewatch it. But yeah,
Atlantis does one of those things that's really fun that I like to see is that it's like a side actor from the original series
yeah,
gets to become a main character in the new series. And so like I think like Miles O'Brien in Star Trek Next Generation was just a side character with maybe a line every other episode, and then he becomes like a main character in Deep Space Nine. Well, the same thing happens with Rodney McKay, right? He's
yes,
kind of like
oh
this
yeah.
side character. And then like in Atlantis, he becomes like one of your favorites. So um
It took a while, didn't it? It
yep.
took several episodes, and then towards the end, you were like, do you know what? He's actually one of the best characters in this.
Yeah, I love this guy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, and you can actually see the personal growth within him too, which is cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Cause I think it's Ashland, isn't it? Troy Mepian's
yes,
game he's got the world where people live on under the sea and stuff. And I always think of that as Stargate Atlantis. When I did my
yeah,
review of it in my head, all I can see is Stargate Atlantis because it's a world with no art, people can't love each other, there's nothing there. It's just everything. Procreation is just it's an end goal to move on. And as I was sort of replaying the world in my head, I was like, I can just see this as Stargate Atlantis.
so I believe I'm going
But
to be helping out with the Oceanican book when we go through to publish with that, and that's kind of where I'm
yeah,
thinking. There was also a 3-issue a 3-episode mini series called Ascension that was on Sci-Fi. Very very good hard sci-fi, and basically you're learning about these people who are on essentially a colony ship that's going to settle on a new Earth.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of things like that because there's only like 80 people on this ship. And so they need the best of the best to procreate. So they have like a lottery to pair people up and to find out what
Mm.
their kids are going to look at. Well, you get to the end of the first episode and, all this stuff is happening on the ship. And you learn that the ship is actually just an experiment and it never actually left Earth. It's and so like it's just they're just watching the people, seeing how they would react as part of this experiment. And so like yeah, same idea though, like science for survival.
Yeah.
That's kind of I think I asked Troy if I could use that as a quote for the Oceanicans, like science
Mm.
to survive. And so yeah, I'm hoping that we can get to that. Basically for the next couple of months, I'm going to be working on stuff that is not my design. I want to help others who have helped me.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm helping Aaron get through with this redacted thing, and that's why I'm going to help Troy with his Oceanicans, because they did so much work for me for Sentience that I like to repay in kind, and that's kind of what the Yellow Hand's all about,
Yeah.
right? Is here are our ideas. Everybody can jump on board and help if they wish, and then in return, I'll help you as well.
Yeah, because you've got do you play with some of the guys from the Yellow Hand? Are they actually in your local gaming group? Did I
Nobody is from around me. I do play on an online game of Star Trek with Troy.
Right, that's where I've got it. So
Yep,
yeah.
yep. But
Because you're captain, aren't you? Are you the captain of the ship?
he's the captain. I'm
He's
the
the
first
captain.
officer.
Okay, you're the Spock. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but yeah. So in general, like in the Yellow Hand, we pitch ideas, and then everybody's like, "Well, I'm not working on anything right now, so I can help you with that. What do you need?" And that's what happened with Menace and Mystery. Like the whole part with the different countries and the
Mm.
background research that we did. Literally every single person that works for the Yellow Hand, works with the Yellow Hand, did at least one of those countries. So
Yeah.
like I jumped in and I did two of them myself, and then somebody else jumped in and did two of them. And what came out of that was some really detailed information about those specific regions. And because so many people were lifting, we got a lot of into the book. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
That's
Jay had to go find maps and label them and all that fun stuff. But
yeah,
you know,
that's a really good book. I do like Menace and Mystery. So I when we were just talking about sci-fi things that potentially would like to see at role-playing games, the one I don't think I've ever seen, I've got in my head possibly I might do, was Farscape. Now that seems a world that I know it went on for probably 2 seasons too long, and then we got a couple of okay movies that
yeah,
didn't really resolve anything, and then they killed off, I think, rather horribly one of the main characters. It was a bit like the Firefly movie, where I
yeah,
was like, really? You're going to kill off that character?
yeah.
I know I'm not trying to spoil something. It's a 20-year-old TV show.
I
So,
know.
but just in case people haven't watched it. But I'm amazed no one's got the rights through for Farscape.
Yeah, I think there's got to be something going on, like with the licensing. It must be like a challenging to get for some reason. And like in general, I know that there are a lot of companies out there who aren't willing to take the risk on an IP that isn't currently available to the public, right?
Yeah.
So that's why Babylon 5 doesn't currently have one, Farscape doesn't currently have one, and I know for a fact that like Stargate, the companies are going to pass over it until they announce that there's another series coming out, just
And then
because,
it'll be hot property, won't it? Oh, I'm
right,
going to do a new
right.
TV series. Yeah.
So I think that they're like, and licensing is a lot. Like it's expensive. It can be like 10% of your total profits in some
Yeah.
cases. So a lot of like I know Modifius is trying to create their own IPs now, to varying degrees of success. That Dreams and Machines game they came out with.
Heroes and Might and Magic. That's
Yeah,
got me so excited. I
Heroes of
was,
Might and Magic.
yeah,
Yep.
I downloaded those rules
Yep.
last week, and I was like, "This is going to be amazing," because that was that and Oblivion were most of my university,
Oh yeah. Yep.
which is
They,
I'm
and
amazed. I'm amazed I passed.
there's a lot of excitement around Discworld too that Modifius is putting out. That's not going to be
Yes.
2D20, but
No.
um, you know, so like it's tough, right? If you're a company that's trying to get off the ground, um, like for example, trying to sell Sentience, I kind
Yeah.
of have like a built-in 2D20 community that I can pull from, right?
Mm.
But if I try to go up there and sell Once Upon, nobody's heard of Once Upon.
Yeah.
Nobody's heard of the threshold system.
Yeah.
Nobody's heard of the yellow hand. So like we've got all these things that are working against us that makes things very challenging. So that's where IPs come in and are pretty appealing is that you attach an IP that someone loves that has its own built-in community. And lots of times it doesn't even really matter what system or company's doing it, right? As
Yeah.
long as that IP is on it. And so like I've tossed around the idea. I'm like, can you imagine if there was a company that was able to get the IP for SpongeBob SquarePants?
Mm.
Not into me. Like it's not my type of game or character or anything, but it has such a huge following
Yeah.
that you'll have $1 million Kickstarter. Um, like I think about the Minecraft movie that just came out. I didn't care for it, but if you were to do a Minecraft tabletop role-playing game, there's millions and millions of people that play the video game, and if you just get just a small fraction of that, you can sustain a company
Yeah.
by producing that game, So, I've been learning a lot about licensing as of late, and it just seems like things that are like dead, like
Mm.
Farscape and Babylon 5. It's a lot more challenging to invest in. Like I would love to do a Sequest,
Oh yeah, I forgot
a
about that.
Sequest
Yeah.
role playing game. And build upon that and actually make something decent out of it, unlike the third season. Um, but it's tough. It's tough. Like you either have to have a system that people are familiar with or an IP that people are familiar with
Yeah.
in order to really be successful in this industry right now, I think. Um, or have something like very special that is beautiful and well thought out, which I think Once Upon could potentially do just because of the art and the layout and how gorgeous it is. It's almost every bit as much an art book as it is a role-playing game.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does people do like jump on board with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you need a celebrity channel to play it.
Well,
That
yeah,
that's the other thing, isn't it now? Because it
yeah,
is, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with 5e with Critical Role, sort of move into their new system. And you
right.
can't blame them. They've spent all that money creating their own system, printing, publishing, and everything. That's where you got. They've got, like every business, you got mouths to feed. And
It's
it
called, is
obviously.
that Daggerheart? Is that what that's called?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think and I think it's out to next month, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that I pre-ordered it. I'll have to check because so I had some people at my local game shop asking about it, so I'll have to check that
Yeah,
out.
I went to, because I think it's a 2D12 system as well, and I was like, oh, 2D12s, and
Yeah.
then it's just completely slipped my mind. And then the limited edition books are out in the UK. You just can't get them for love nor money anywhere.
Yeah.
But I the problem is whenever I buy something now, I don't get to do a lot of what I'm buying,
Yeah.
because I'm now wonderfully being given stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm then spending time reading the stuff I'm given, because no one's ever asked for, you never ask for reviews or anything like that, but you still feel obliged to read it. And if
Sure.
you
Yeah.
enjoy it, put the camera on, which is that's where I feel bad about Once Upon, because I'm like, I like it, I think, but I can't quite understand where it sits in the thing, which was like really excited to. Well, obviously, I wanted to talk to you about Sentience and the game that you ran for me as well. But it was that the whole Once Upon was like, I think I get this, but I think that there's probably nothing worse than me putting a camera on talking about something and you watching it going, you've really missed the point of that, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, and let's face it, like every new game that comes out does something different and unique, and to be able to understand why that different and unique thing is interesting or important, it really helps to sit down and actually play through it.
yeah, yeah. 'Cause
You
it's
know.
interesting what you said about rules, because I had a chat with Rob from Pulp Comic Press.
Yep.
And he's talking about reprinting, redoing Gods of the Forbidden North for 5e,
Yep.
just from a monetary point of view, because it's going to open up so many more doors. So that's always like you were saying about original game design, original IP.
Right.
Where if you look at Kickstarter, I did a video the other day and I was looking at because I was like, okay, is this it now? Are we now going to see Shadow Dark and Morkborg really take over the whole of the community?
Hmm.
Not those games, but the system. Because
Right.
as players, we're now starting to move towards simpler systems. We've had years of heavier stuff,
Right.
so I think we're going to see these become. So we're just seeing clones now of Shadow Dark,
Hmm.
but with completely different worlds, which is great. And the same with Morkborg.
Yep.
So I don't know. Maybe you're going to have to move into new systems or existing systems and just do new games off that. But then you're not doing what you enjoy, are you? Because
Right.
and then it
Well, so
becomes
so
harder, I suppose.
what's cool about our licensing deal with Modifius for Sentience is I could release that for every single game system that's out there.
Yeah.
I could do a uh like a almost like a Tales from the Loop system. I could do it, as
Don't. I hate that system.
yeah, as I could do Powered by the Apocalypse. I
Yeah.
could do it at, you could do it as all of those, which is cool that Modifius says that's okay to do because Sentience is mine. The 2D20 system is theirs.
Mm.
So as long as I have the 2D20 system on the cover and as the system inside, I have to give them a little cut. But if I wanted to take Sentience and produce other systems for it, I could do that and make the money from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. Like I understand that 5e has this following, and it's almost like I don't even want to say it's cult-like, but it's like this huge um, part of the market is 5e, right?
Yes.
90% of the market or whatever it is. And then there are these other companies that are doing 5e versions of their games. And I do all the games ordering at a local game shop. And those 5e versions that are not D&D, I have a hell of a time selling. Like,
Right.
yeah, that just sits on the shelf, and I'm like, and I don't quite understand why. Like if D&D has that much of a stranglehold over the 5e like system or what. But like I'll take, so for example, Dungeon Crawl Classics has released a bunch of their games as 5e,
Yes.
right? And so I will, put those out on a feature rack right next to the D&D core rulebook and whatnot, and I won't sell a single one of them. I'll put out the regular version of the Dungeon Crawl Classic, and my Dungeon Crawl Classic people will buy it out.
Yeah.
So it's just so fascinating to me, like trying to figure out how this industry is and where it's going to be in 5 years.
Yeah. I think we're seeing a big divide. My most disliked videos, and I'm not a massive channel, but some of these videos have hit like big thousands for me.
Yeah.
And it's me talking about D&D in a negative way. I did one about Dark Sun, how Dark Sun's never, and I think I was down to about 60% like.
Wow.
Because as soon as you sort of say something negative about Dungeons and Dragons, I don't even think people even watch the video. Looking at some of the timings of stuff, they
Yeah.
just saw the title, right? Well, I'm going to dislike that, move on.
Hmm.
As opposed to actually listening to something. I suppose it's like me moaning about people wearing Metallica t-shirts when things,
Yes.
and that they could have been grown up listening to Metallica by the sort of things I used to make my kids do in a car, because you can have wheels on the bus or you can have
I'm
creeping
I,
death.
I'm perfectly excited that D&D exists and as like an entry level type game for people, and that people can get an experience role playing and whatnot.
Yeah.
What annoys me a little bit is how so many of those D&D players are just unwilling to try anything else.
Yes.
So we have free RPG day coming up here in June, and I run a free RPG day convention at the local game store, and I get like 5 or 6 different tables going every session and whatnot. And this is a chance to experience all the different games that come out for free RPG day, right? Like, there's the Transformers role playing game, there's the Marvel role playing game, there's like a lot of these big IP role playing games, and a lot of these small press role playing games. Mazes does it, and you know, um, and so we'll set up tables for them. But the tables that fill first are the 5e
Yeah.
variants. Like the Tales from the Valiant, and like, and my D&D players only want to play those 5e things, which is interesting. Actually, there is an exception this year. The exception being the Monty Python RPG.
Right. Yeah.
That filled up very quickly with D&D players, which I was surprised to see.
That's good. That's good. But I think there is an element of having to learn a new game is
Yep.
what puts an awful lot of people off, because people never want to look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So probably they should be quieter more often. I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of people have said. But as a general rule, so I'm starting my Discord game of Shadow Dark tomorrow, which is probably one of the easiest systems out there. And a couple of the players have both have messaged me, basically panicking over the system. And I'm like, it's really simple. We've been playing 5e for years. Don't worry about it, because this is the first thing I've ever done where I'm playing with strangers, bar one.
Mm-hmm.
I've never played with. I've done a couple of conventions and played with them, but I've never ran a game.
Yep.
So I'm really apprehensive, because I've done videos about, you got all the safety things that you should put in,
Sure.
and session one, and I've always gone, I don't understand what these are in here for, because I've always played for 35 years to the same 10, less than 10 faces around the table, and we're down to the 7 of us left.
Yeah.
And it's like 2 different groups on different nights, with quite a chunk of crossover. And now I'm going to be doing it to completely new people. And I'm like, I don't think I know Shadow Dark enough. And there's only 7 rules. There is slightly more than that. But even I'm worried about it. So maybe that's one of the big reasons why other systems don't. Because you buy a 5e module, you don't have to learn something new.
Right.
But I think there is a huge amount of familiarity on that, and it is very simple. There's a lot of holes in it,
Yeah.
and we all homebrew the hell out of 5e, because
Uh-huh.
as a rule system it doesn't really work. But most rule systems don't really work for the group.
Right.
We talk about this with Monopoly. Do you like Monopoly? Everyone goes, oh, I play Monopoly. Right, how long does your game take? 4 hours. Right, have you read the rules? It should be done in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because you have to buy property every single time, and if you don't buy it, the player next to you buys it.
Yep.
So it's out, but no one plays it that way. They play it the way
Right.
their grandparents taught them, because the grandparents never read the rules either.
Right. Right.
So
right. We were just talking about how Uno, there's so many like house variants of the game Uno.
Yeah.
No 2 people have ever played the same game.
I'm not sure. Wasn't there recently someone? Was it the creator of Uno, or someone basically did there was some official ruling came out about a card, because I've never played it. I've never played Uno, and I've had a big board game collection. That I basically, my whole board game collection, I was about 250 games, and it all went after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Because during COVID, I didn't want to play any games. None of my family did, and I was like, do you know what? There's no point in keeping it. It might as well go to someone else. And Uno's just one of those games I've never got round to.
Yeah, it just goes to show. So what I always say when I am doing, like, when people are asking, hey, what are the rules for such and such in Star Trek, or what are the rules for such and such, and I say, listen, this book right here, right, this book that I wrote 20,000 words in, those 20,000 words are suggestions.
Yeah.
They are suggestions as to how to play this game with your group. Same thing with Sentience, right? These are all suggestions. You don't need to do this by the letter. You need to know your group and do it for your group. And if that means you've got a homebrew rule for one of these things and another homebrew rule for another thing, awesome. If everybody's on board with it, go nuts. Because anything that is in, I mean, you look at the rack of books behind you. Those are all suggestions as to how to play this type of game when you're sitting around a table with friends.
Yeah. That is one of the big things I really love about reading the amount that I'm reading at this moment in time, because I'm just because I think as a world, as a community, we're still waiting for that perfect system. We thought we had it with 5e, we thought we had it with 2nd edition, we thought we had it with 3.5, we think we've got it with Shadow Dark. Eventually 2D20, whatever it may be. But there's so many different people with different opinions that I can't think I was talking to the other week. Oh, it's the guys from Black Lodge Games, and we were just talking about perfect games and perfect systems, and we're not there, but we possibly are for certain people. They found their game, and I think that might be a big element of fifth edition. They think they found their game, but
Right.
also it takes a long time to learn a game. I've been running the revised edition of Pathfinder, and I'm going to sell my books. It's a game I will never ever run ever again. I'll play it, but I'll never run it
Yeah.
because it's a really good system, but far too crunchy for me.
Yep.
I need to be playing this system twice a week for probably 3 or 4 months. Then I'm happy.
Yep.
And then we can keep playing it. Dipping in once a week, once every other week to play it, run it as a DM. Horrible system to run.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of like bringing us back to sentience, right? Like, there is no perfect world that you can create as a robot for yourselves and for humanity. But you have to find the best one that you possibly can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for each robot that has built this new Dawn city, that might be slightly different.
Yeah.
And and you might have different opinions on what the next steps are, and that's okay. You have to talk through it and, move forward and make what's best for what's to come. And I think that that's kind of what the game is really all about, is coming together to decide, like, how do we move forward together? You know what I mean? Like, even though you may be afraid that humanity is returning and I'm excited to worship humanity when they return, the fact of the matter is they're coming.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to get there without ruining our civilization,
Yeah. So I will include a link for the backer kit thing so people can jump on it. And if all else goes wrong when you're playing Sentience and you're struggling, the good thing is you can just dump your values and you're going to pass anyway. So you just make yourself more robotic and head to. I do love that mechanic of, heading towards your permanent demise by just sacrificing something, because I think Warhammer does it really well with the corruption rule.
Yep.
Where if you fail a roll, you can go, okay, do you want to take that roll again?
Well, you get the powers of chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're 3 rolls away from a mutation.
And you might be at the point where, like, you're the only robot that's left that can possibly succeed here. You've only got 1 value left.
Yeah.
And do you sacrifice your humanity so that others can move forward? Yeah. Like that I think that if that comes to fruition in anybody's campaign, I need to hear about it, because I think that's really a spectacular story beat.
Yeah. And I'd say that shared pool, and when
momentum pool,
when the live play goes up, I'll let you know so you can share it as well. But obviously, if you do watch that, if you're watching my video, you can just see how much fun, because none of us knew anyone. Well, obviously you knew Troy, and I think you and Troy knew Bill, who's got his own Star Trek channel, and that was it. And we're all a bunch of strangers, and I haven't laughed so much and enjoyed a session. It's probably my favorite session of the year, if not longer, if that makes sense. My mate's going to watch this going, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, how did you enjoy? And I think because I've said to my wife, going, I'm playing with a bunch of strangers again, over the internet, and because she's not involved in this hobby, she doesn't care. And it's strange. It's strange. You're talking to people all around the world on completely different time zones. And because of the momentum pool, even if someone, not that I disliked anyone that I was playing with, but even if that happened, I'd imagine that you're going to have to sort of pull together. And it stops all the alpha gaming as well, because you've got to agree to it. Because there will be elements where you're going to alpha game and going, right, I need to succeed. But you've got 5 dice. You don't need anything else. It's absolutely. And because you do get those players that just have to be the best and the best, and you go, well, no, we don't agree. You can't have the momentum.
Yep.
So
and because of the assist mechanics in the game,
like
it really shows how my action can influence what it is that you're doing, right? And I think that built into the game helps negate the selfishness of gaming,
Yeah.
or the ego of gaming. Um, and it kind of forces you, because if I assist you, that's one more dice that you get in your pool,
Yeah,
essentially,
because
right?
Bill did that with my driving. He
Yep.
basically he jumped in the car. He was my co-pilot, and without him, we'd have failed. There was
Yeah.
no way I would have achieved what we, what I may or may not have achieved. Don't want to spoil the end in there. Okay.
Excellent.
Right. So before we wrap up, obviously we can get Sentience as a late pledge on BackerKit. Hopefully that will be out. So this, I won't say when this video is going to go out. So, well, I will go. So this should go out on Saturday, start of the month.
Yeah.
So it'll be about there. So we've got about 3 weeks on BackerKit, and then once BackerKit's out, if people miss that, they're coming to this at a later date. I assume it would be just up on Drive Through RPG to purchase as normal. Yeah, and again, print on demand, softback, PDF only,
hardcover. I think we're
hardcover.
gonna have basic color printing, and then premium color printing options. So we're still putting that together now. Basically, it's the difference between a flat page versus a semi-gloss page. So we're waiting to get, when we get our print proofs, we're getting print proofs of both to see what they look like, and then we'll go from there.
All right, fantastic. And Redacted, Kickstarter, any sort of
We're
an
not sure
idea
what our
of a
next
quarter?
Kickstarter is.
If you got a quarter for Redacted that you can give?
I am hoping that we can get Redacted out by the summertime.
Okay.
We are in the last act of the playtest adventure. We're getting that written up right now. We'll run a few playtests of that internally. We might do one externally, and then I do know that the attached miniatures game, which is called Saucer Squadron, that is going to get laid out first, to give us a little bit of time to get Redacted together. Plus, Yellow Hand is working on a new Call of Cthulhu anthology, basically a Gaslight era campaign that we're looking at.
The one that Troy sent me was really, really good.
Yeah,
I think it was seven sort of one-shot adventures that are between 2 and 4 hours. What I love about your books is especially the layout, because the title of the channel gives it away. My disabilities is for reading. There are certain books that I get, and I know I'm going to put the camera on quickly if I get it and I can keep reading it, because certain things I put down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and then it sort of goes away for a while, and then something else. But there's certain things I get, and I'm like, do you know what? I'm flying with this.
Yeah.
So that's good. So we've got Redacted coming. Once Upon, you've got more things coming for that. Hopefully, Halloween special would be good.
Yeah, I think that's so. It depends on what my timetable looks like, and we could do it. We definitely want to do a Halloween book of some sort. We don't know if it's going to be Call of Cthulhu, Monster of the Week, or Once Upon yet. So that's kind of like a little bit in the future. The near future is our Gaslight campaign, Redacted.
That's is that the Victorian one, isn't it, for Cthulhu?
Yeah.
I still haven't played Gaslight yet.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all the hot new Call of Cthulhu thing. So, we're gonna get that out there, and then, probably a Sentience, like some type of explorer guide to open up the rest of the world that isn't just the city. So, so there's a lot on the whiteboard, so to speak. We just haven't nailed down the order of it as of yet.
Full-time jobs and families, they get in the way, don't they?
It sure does.
Al, it's been amazing having you on. It's been really good talking to you again, because obviously we did, when we did your live show. If you need me for play testing for anything else, just let me know. Al is also in my Discord, so if you want to come to my Discord, come and chat to him there. The Yellow Hand do have their own Discord. I will also link their Discord, their Drive Through RPG page, the BackerKit page into this video as well. So yeah, as you can see,
awesome,
incredibly approachable guy. It's amazing how everyone I interview perfectly normal.
Yeah, I mean, and I just love talking about games. Like
Yeah.
we've been recording for almost 2 hours now, and it feels like I just started talking to you.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know?
I'm always like, oh, maybe it'll be half an hour to an hour, and then you're like, okay, 2 hours is probably pushing too long for someone to sit and watch. So, but yeah, no, it'd be brilliant, and I'll get you back on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Uh,
yeah,
and,
especially as gone.
yeah, I was gonna say, and once I get the redacted playtest together, I'll let you know, and we'll get you on board to check it out.
Yeah, yeah, no, amazing. No, brilliant, Al. Thank you for being here. Thanks for coming on. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Go and find Al on the Yellow Hand Discord. Obviously, we've got a backer kit for Sentience. I think it's probably going to be one of the games of the year. It's absolutely amazing. So, and thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me,
all
man,
right.
and we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, yeah. See you soon. Thank you.